Friends, in this particular lecture, I'm going to talk about a old technique, that is the Compton scattering technique. So the Compton scattering phenomena was invented in the beginning of 19th century, and recently people have tried to exploit this technique for uh, finding the electronic properties of various kind of materials. So in case of Compton scattering, what Compton did, he assumed that electron is free and at rest. The photon that comes like this, and the scattered photon that goes like this, and the electron that is recoiled in particular direction. So the incident photon that has energy h cross omega 1. You see, this is h nu, and h cross is equal to h upon 2 pi. So you can write down energy in terms of h cross nu 1 or h cross omega 1, sorry, right? So the wavelength is lambda 1, and here the scattered photon is having energy as h cross omega 2 and the wavelength lambda 2, and the electron, it got certain kinetic energy and it went in particular direction, and this is the scattering angle theta. Now what Compton did, he used conservation of energy and momentum equations, and then he derived wavelength difference relation like lambda 2 minus lambda 1 is equal to 2h upon m0 c sine square theta by 2, or popularly you know h upon m0 c 1 minus cos theta, that is just equivalent to this one. So this relation, particular relation, that was basically for free electrons and the electron which is at rest. So two assumptions were there: electron is free and electron is at rest. Now fortunately or unfortunately, you cannot have this ideal situation where electron is free and at rest. Electron cannot be assumed as free because it is always bound in atoms or molecules. So you cannot say electron is free, and electron cannot be at rest, right? So it has got certain momentum, and you cannot determine this momentum exactly because there is uncertainty principle which dictates that if you know the position, you don't know the momentum, and if you know the momentum, you don't know the position. Anyhow, first assumption that treats that electron is free can be granted if the incident energy is much greater than the binding energy of the electron. But the second assumption, that is too simplified because the electrons, they have continuous distribution of the momenta. So now if you talk about Compton scattering in real materials, so what you have is your photon is coming like this, and the scattered photon that goes like this, and the electron that is recoiled like this. Now the incident energy you are calling as omega 1 and the momentum as k1. Please remember that we are talking in terms of atomic units. In this case, your E, H cross and M, that is equal to 1, and C is 137.036. Accordingly, you can calculate one atomic unit of the momentum that comes equal to this one. Now what you have is, coming back to this figure, the photon which comes like this, that goes with the momentum like h cross k2 and h cross omega 2. H cross is 1, so this is k2 and omega 2, and here the electron which is recoiled, it is having momentum as p1 and energy as e2. Now here remember, the electron is not at rest, but electron is having some momentum, initial momentum, that is p1 and the energy e1. So electron that comes like this, photon that comes like this, then electron, it is recoiled like this, and the photon that goes like this. So this is the simple Compton scattering, so called the Charles Compton scattering. So now what you have is your electron that is interacting with the incident radiation, so electron charge I meant to say. Now what you have is if you talk about Compton scattering from unpaired electrons, so in that case what happens, magnetic field of electromagnetic wave, because you see the photon is having electromagnetic nature, so you have the magnetic field of electromagnetic wave that interacts with the magnetic moment of electron, that leads to the magnetic Compton scattering. So in this particular situation what you have is your unpaired electron is kept under the influence. Unpaired electron means that magnetic material is kept under the influence of varying magnetic field. So the photon that comes like this, and the scattered photon that goes like this, and this is the direction of the scattering vector. Here this k was the direction of the scattering vector, right? And here you have the direction of a scattering vector k, that is defined like k, minus k is equal to k2 minus k1. So you see, in case of magnetic Compton scattering, you should have circularly polarized synchrotron radiation. I will show you why you need circularly polarized synchrotron radiation. And the sample should be the magnetic sample, which is kept under the influence of the magnetic field, and only then you can have this magnetic Compton scattering. So this is so-called the MCS. Now if you talk about normal Compton scattering or the charge Compton scattering, and if you talk conservation of momentum and energy, and particularly when your photon is having, incident photon is having some momentum p1, if in z direction this component is pz, pz is component of p1 in z direction, then this relation, earlier this was the relation, that relation is modified like this. So this is lambda 2 minus lambda 1, so this is same as h upon m0 c1 minus cos theta, or you can write it like 2h upon m0 c sin square theta by 2. And then you have this additional term when you consider the electron having certain momentum p1, and particularly you have considered here the z component. So that comes from the simple derivation, right? So first term, this is so called the recoil term, and second term that gives the broadening in the profile, and this is the Doppler term. So basically what is happening, your photon is coming and electron is moving. So that is the situation. So it is leading to the Doppler term. Now if you consider the Compton profile, the Compton profile is basically the spectrum of inelastically scattered photon. Here you see what has happened. You have inelastic scattering. Of course you have considered the binding energy of the electron. So the incident photon that has to overcome the binding energy of electron. So in that case the conservation of momentum that dictates, or conservation of energy that dictates, that you have inelastic scattering type situation. So now here what you have is your photon, incident photon is having wavelength as lambda 1, and the scattered photon is having wavelength lambda 2, and separation of this lambda 1 and lambda 2, that is lambda 2 minus lambda 1, that is governed by the first term, and this broadening in the profile, this is governed by the second term, right? It means if you know the broadening in the profile, then you can talk about the pz component, and if you know the pz component, linear momentum component of electron in that particular atom or in particular material, then you can talk about the electronic properties of that particular material. So this is how Compton profile or Compton scattering is exploited. Exploitation term is basically this one. So quantum mechanically, if we calculate the double differential cross section for relativistic bound spin polarized electrons, then this d square sigma upon d omega 2, that can be written like this. This is the Compton cross section, double differential Compton cross section. D omega, this is the solid angle, so you measure the scattered radiation in a particular solid angle, and further you are measuring the radiations near the Compton peak, so this is the d omega 2 or d omega sometimes you write. Now here if you see the terms here, so what you have is you have 1 plus cos square theta, and then PL sin square theta by 2, K1 minus K2, and all this, that is multiplied by JPZ. So basically this is the degree of linear polarization, PL, that is degree of the linear polarization, and PC, that is the degree of the circular polarization. So if you have circularly polarized radiation, then this PL, that becomes 0. This PL, that becomes this becomes 0, right? And then this term just disappears. And if you have certain value of PC, then what will happen? This term is going to survive. So this term is multiplied by J magnetic PZ, and this term is multiplied by JPZ. Now if you take the difference of double differential cross-section for spin up and spin down directions, right? So when I say spin up, then the value of sigma, that is +1, and if I say spin down, then value of the sigma, that becomes -1. So this sigma sits here. Now if I take the difference of double differential cross-section for spin up and spin down, then that is proportional to J mag PZ. So that leads to the magnetic Compton profile. That means what you should have is, you have degree of circular polarization, that is there. If the degree of circular polarization is there, then further it is changing, the sigma is changing with direction of the spin, electron spin, or the magnetic field direction. Then you will have the magnetic Compton profile. So you have circularly polarized radiation, number 1, and then you have unpaired electrons, so that you can have direction of electron spin in different directions. So you have magnetic material kept under the influence of the magnetic field, which leads to the spin in one direction when the magnetic field is in one direction, and all the unpaired electrons, they have the spin in another direction along with the change of magnetic field. So this is how you calculate, or how you derive the J magnetic PZ. So J magnetic PZ is nothing but this is the magnetic Compton profile. This capital J is symbol corresponding to that. So theoretically what you have is, if you have the wave function, first time you just assume, forget about this bracket with the spin down, this is spin down, forget, this is spin down, forget, read only one equation. So rho up, that is Ni up, psi I up, R exponential of this, and dr this square. So you have wave function for spin up electrons, you take the Fourier transform of that and sum over all the states, occupied states, then you will have the momentum density for spin up electrons. Now if you consider this bracket term, so rho down, P, that is Ni down, psi I down, and this, then what you have is, you have wave function for the spin down electrons, take the Fourier transform of this one, sum it for all the states, and get the momentum density for spin down electrons. Now the beauty of this part is, if you have momentum density, electron momentum density for spin up, and electron momentum density for spin down directions, then if you sum it up, you have the total electron momentum density, and that will lead to simple Compton profile, that is JPZ. You have this particular integration, right? So this double integration dpx dpy. So you are integrating this momentum density along x and y, so that's why here you are getting the z direction. Now the area under this JPZ, that is equal to total number of electrons which participate in the Compton phenomena for that material. So you have integration of JPZ dpz, that is equal to n. Now if you want to talk about the magnetic momentum density, then you have separation, difference of these two, spin up and spin down, and take the rho magnetic PZ, right? So theoretically, now if you just want to have this J magnetic PZ, then rho up and rho down separation, or their difference, that is integrated like this. So you will have the magnetic Compton profile. So you have charge Compton profile, you have the magnetic Compton profile. So this magnetic Compton profile is basically coming from the unpaired electrons, and the charge Compton profile or normal Compton profile JPZ, where mag is not there in, so that comes from the contribution of all the electrons. So the area under the J magnetic PZ, that leads to the spin moment of that particular material. Now what you have is to measure the Compton profile, particularly the charge Compton profile, what you can have is, you can have a source, then you should have a sample, and then you should have a detector. So in Udaipur University itself, we designed 20 Curie cesium-137 Compton spectrometer. That is first such facility in Indian science, that lies in the Sugadiya University, Udaipur. So here what you have is, you have this source container. In source container you have 20 Curie cesium source. So source container is basically made of this lead. Diameter is about 22 centimeter lead block, and the length is also about 22 centimeter, and from that you have just shielded that source, and the sample is just kept here, and the scattered radiation after certain slitting, so you have solar slits here, so after certain slitting, that goes like this, and here you have high purity GE detector, and on this high purity GE detector, which is mostly imported from USA, that is Canberra is there, or Ortec is there, so you can buy it from the standard firms in USA. And this HPG detector that is mounted with the preamplifier, and then you have spectroscopy amplifier, then analog to digital converter, and then you have the multi-channel analyzer. Now if you look this structure, so this is parallelopiped structure, right, with dimensions 115 centimeter by 35 centimeter by 40 centimeter. These are the inner dimensions, and this bricked area which you are looking, so this is basically massive lead shielding. So this depends upon the particular region from where you want to shield. So this is about 7 centimeter, and here you have additional beam stop, additional brick you have, so that because you see the radiations, they can just go like this, so you need to stop those radiations for biological shielding. Now you can also have the Compton scattering at 90 degree. So you put the sample like this, so have the scattered radiation in this direction. So that is good for Compton scanning purposes. Compton scanning is basically non-destructive scanning of different kind of materials. So if you have, say, bullets, or you have pipes, or you have the leakage points, so you can find out the leakage or such inner construction without destroying the material. Because you see, this concept is, if you are having atoms, you have the electrons, so you will have the Compton intensity. So in that case, what you will have, you will have a good Compton profile. And if you have some cracks, or you have holes or voids, you will not have the electron density there, so you have lesser amplitude of the Compton profile. So this is how you do the Compton scanning. So basically what happens, the scattered radiations, when they fall on HPG detector, they create the electron and hole pairs, and those electron and hole pairs are attracted by the opposite terminals through this high voltage power supply. So you apply about 1000 volt reverse bias, right, and have the charge pulse, and this charge pulse is integrated by preamplifier, right, and then further it is integrated and shaped by the spectroscopy amplifier, and then based on the amplitude of that pulse, you can have analog to digital converter, and that will give you the channel number versus intensity. So to validate this geometry, we have published in Nuclear Instruments and Method in Physics Research, that was published in 2006.